but I'll go ahead and start recording just so we can kind of chat about that and have that on the record.
Good thing you're posting this stuff to YouTube.
Yeah. So first and foremost, a little like house cleaning schedule stuff. You'll notice maybe that I have updated a lot of stuff on D2L. The things I have not updated yet are the grades, but all of the mechanisms for grading are now in there. So all of the gradable items are in there, and for the projects, all of the rubrics are in there. We can look at those rubrics in a bit, but basically those are broken down in the same way that they are in the write-ups for the exercises and projects. The exercises are pass-fail, and I recognize that in the near future, some of your, I want the exercises to have weight. So basically, a fail on that, as long as you turned it in, is still revisable. So consider, if you get a fail on an exercise, that's a strong recommendation to revise that piece, basically. And I'll put that in the notes of like, this is the thing you need to fix to technically qualify for the full thing. Yes?
I'm guessing you're going to cover in a second, but what is for the next milestone?
The next exercise, or the next milestone?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that. First, let's talk a little bit about, does anybody need the attendance sheet? Talk really quickly about what we're going to be covering today, which is a little bit of sculpting, a little bit of photogrammetry, a little bit of retopology. That's a lot to cover in one class, and I'm going to go over it pretty quick because not everybody needs all of those things. It's more like, I need you to know they exist, and the sort of one-on-one, like hands-on part of that is something that we can do like individually when I'm working with you. So we're going to cover a lot of that. Basically, I'm going to disregard ZBrush, even though ZBrush is probably the superior modeling tool. But that's because if we were going to cover ZBrush in this class, I would need 3 or 4 days, right? At least to get you up and going. Mudbox, we can get up and going in like 10 minutes, right? Everybody in here already knows how to use Mudbox, whether you know it or not. So that's mainly what we're going to be covering today. You'll notice next class period is when exercise 2 is going to be due. So to answer Ryan's question, we'll go back to content. Documents, yeah, and under exercises for the milestones, right? I'm intentionally vague on this. Modeling progress. Basically, I want to see that there is some modeling progress. Right? Everybody has a different amount of modeling that needs to be done, so I didn't put a percentage on that, because if I was like 50% of the modeling, for some of you that's like a lot. For some of you, that's like, I made a box, right? But for most of everybody, there's a reasonable amount of the models that need to be in there. I just want to see that you're making progress toward that, and we'll kind of have a chat one-on-one. But if you have a few models done, that's cool. The reason I say modeling progress is because the next milestone, which is right after fall break, is 90% of the modeling complete. Okay? So if the progress you have made at this point is 10%, you're running a little bit behind, right? If the progress is like 30, 40-ish, then you're probably doing pretty good and you're on track to hit that like 90% point, right? The other 2 things are any revisions to your animatic that you may have made, or any story changes you've made. You can also show this if you wanted to as a if there are no changes and you're moving forward as it was, just put the animatic in there again. And then I want to review with you your schedule and your asset list. So any changes you've made to your schedule and asset list, this is just to get you to stay on top of that, to think of that as a daily progress. Okay. Any questions on that about what's due? So again, this is not going to be a presentation. This is going to be something I'll meet with you and chat with you one-on-one with. Okay, a couple of other house cleaning things. Back to our schedule, which actually is already open here. So we're coming up pretty quickly on fall break, right? Fall break is not this coming week, but the following week, right? So we have kind of a gap there of when stuff is due, but I wanted to talk about a few things that are happening right before fall break. The week before fall break starts, we have in the department portfolio reviews. How many of you have been to a portfolio before? Have I mentioned this to you already in this class? I think I have, maybe? No, maybe not. Basically, I am strongly encouraging you all to attend the portfolio reviews. So strongly that I'm going to give you extra credit if you do. I don't know the exact number just yet, but it will probably be, if you look at the rubrics in D2L, it will probably be an extra point on whichever of your lowest category or criteria is on your projects, right? So if I go back and I'm like, you made a 3 out of 5 on one of these, I'll bump that up to 4, right? It would probably amount to somewhere between like 3 to 5 points in a regular grade, right? Or no, out of 100. All you have to do is show up for those, and then bring me back some proof that you were there. I will accept a selfie with the faculty in the background, like on the honor system that you are actually staying for the presentations. I ran into a student on the way out last year, like I was on my way in, it hadn't started yet. And he walked by with his phone and he's like, does this count? And I was like, yeah, sure, that's you in the room. And he's like, cool. And then he left. I was like, got me? You good? Well played. Right now, I'm doing the selfie thing. That way, you don't have to write a bunch of stuff. Like I'm just trying to get you to go there. Yes.
What if we're really good with Photoshop and all just use one selfie?
There's like one selfie with like blank. Ryan's just gonna show up in a green suit and like crop himself out and charge you each to put you into that selfie picture. Yeah, like again, like if you really are wanting to try to like pull one of those on me that much, way to go. But you're like, the reason I'm encouraging you to go to this is because how many of you have said you've been to one before? Yeah, very valuable, right? You will see the really good presentations and you will see the really painful presentations, and then you will see and you will leave that with the understanding of which one you want to be when you get to that class. How many of you are going up for portfolio next semester? You are, right? So I have people every semester who are in portfolio, and I'll say, so you've been to portfolio before, right? And they say, no, what's it like? And I'm like, oh, like I can't explain it, and you've already missed all of the possible ones to learn what that's like. And sometimes that's a very painful process for them. They have to learn it the hard way at that midpoint presentation. I like you going to the midpoint ones because you see the harsher critiques then, you see the more like opportunities for growth. Although I would encourage you to go to both of them. If you go to both of them though, you just get extra credit one time. You get the benefits of experiencing portfolio both times though. So, okay, the other thing, actually other things, you all probably seen these hanging up in the lobby, in the elevator, in the everywhere. Here we go. So later this week, it's the 4th, which I think is Thursday, we're going to do a Skype call with Matt Drury. Catherine will, and the Edge Club. Matt Drury graduated from here a couple of semesters back, I think about 2 years ago, and he's currently working at Rooster Teeth. He's worked on Ruby and the robot one. I always forget the names of them. It's probably written in there somewhere. So he'll be here answering questions. He has very recently gone through that process of getting a job, and I only assume that you all are interested in someday getting a job. So
He's doing this for a job.
yeah.
I don't know about you, but I imagine they're very proceeding about profit.
Yeah, just for the love of the process, we don't need any money. So I would strongly recommend you come out and chat with him. There's a whole series of people we're going to be chatting with throughout this semester. A game designer from Oxide Games, and she's really fun. She's really funny too. And an animator from Bethesda is working on Fallout. So just finished up Fallout 76. So the other thing, we don't know the exact time yet, but the following day from this, we're having another guest speaker who will actually be in the building. Has Marty emailed you all about that yet? Okay, he probably will soon. I don't know if we have everything scheduled yet. I ruined the surprise. Surprise! It's actually an animator or an animation director from The Simpsons, who is going to be here doing a live demo. His name's Jay Epstein? Something. And he is nope. Let's try this again. Jess Espinola. And he is, I think, an animation director. In all honesty, I don't have all the details about this. He's visiting the art department, and he will be here doing a live demo this Friday. So these are two different events. One is during the day, probably about 1-ish on Friday. The other one is at night on Thursday. So these are great opportunities, so please take advantage of them. Okay. So, is that everything I wanted to talk about? Okay, I think that's all the big stuff. So what I want to go over today is a little bit more about modeling. You remember from the last class period, I was talking about modeling in the terms of like the 3 F's, form, flow, and function. And I want to, how many of you have taken modeling for entertainment? You're in it now? Okay. How's that going? Good? All right. Modeling for entertainment probably covers a little bit more about this than I am going to cover. Definitely covers more about this than I'm going to cover. But the concept that I'm kind of doing right now is called the high-to-low workflow, which is you ignore flow and function for now, right? If we're talking about form, flow, and function, using sculpting means you're only going to focus on form. You're only going to focus on what the model looks like. And then from there, once you're done with the form and the way you want it, you're going to then focus on flow and function. So what I thought I'd do today is a very rough introduction to Mudbox. I will tell you right now, ZBrush is better. Like it just is. It's a better software package, but it's also a really complex software package. If you're interested in learning ZBrush, that's perfectly fine. In the course content, actually it's in the course home, you see the Gnomon videos where I accidentally misspelled Gnomon. These are videos that you can access that have like much longer tutorials. You can sign up for these. These are free. We pay for a subscription for you all to use these. So that is probably the way to go for that. In terms of Mudbox here, feel free to follow along with this. This lab does not have the Cintiqs, right? Cintiqs are upstairs. If you need to use those, I can get you some pins. Right now I'm out. I can get some from John though. John Hounshell's kind of the the person who's maintaining the pin reservoir, and we sort of check those out from him. And so if I have a handful of people who are needing those, I can go get another batch of those from them and check one out to you. So if you've never opened Mudbox before, it's the only software package that starts with the word mud. So Mudbox 2018. Occasionally there will be license issues. Like I've tried to start Mudbox and it tells me I can't because the license server isn't working. One of the workarounds for that to me is to start Maya first, and then Mudbox seems to work. And I think that's just an issue with this lab. So when you open up Mudbox, the first thing it gives you is this, right? What do you want to do? You want to learn about it, or you want to start something, or you want to open a file? I'm just going to get us a model to start with here. I'll go to start with a cube, and this is what opens up. You probably also got a window that popped up that said, do you want to use Mudbox's shortcut keys or Maya's shortcut keys? It really doesn't matter which one you choose, because you're pretty much going to be able to navigate without much work with either one of them. The shortcut keys aren't terribly different, right? So what you'll notice is we have a brush, right? You have your tools settings over here. We get this box. And then we have a whole bunch of different sculpting tools along the bottom, right? So some of those include sculpt, which is just going to, like, if I click, just going to start pulling up parts of my mesh, right? Now if you're using the pen, it'll have some pressure sensitivity to it, which means, like right now it's either on or off, and so it's like all the pressure or none of the pressure. And so, like, you know, the pen will give you a little bit more control of that. Now, if you hold shift, using any of these tools, if you hold shift, it sort of takes you to this smooth mode where you can sort of soften this, right? So a lot of people will do this to, like, you sculpt something, that's a little too harsh, you hold shift, you smooth it out, right? And so that's a way that you can kind of soften that. If you hold down B, you'll notice you can resize your brush. You can get it really small, or make it much bigger, right? For me, depending on which of your shortcut keys you chose, if you tap W, you'll be able to see your wireframe. And so you get an idea of what this topology looks like. This one isn't super dense right now, right? And then the last thing I'll show you is if you hold down Control, it's going to do the opposite. It's going to paint inward instead of outward, right? And so this is going to allow you to get some interesting results out of this, right? Now, within this, we eventually are going to start needing more detail, right? Like if we decide we're going to start carving in like some really fine like lines, right? I could use like my knife tool here. Oh, crap. Held down the wrong button. So B, there we go. And I start cutting and you see like it's very jagged looking, right? So we can smooth the entire thing by adding a new level of subdivision on this. So we go to Mesh, add new subdivision level. It's just going to smooth the entire thing, and now I have a little bit more detail that I can put in there, right? Now there are times when you need this level of detail, times when you don't. And what you notice that happened is when I did that, it smoothed the entire thing, right? If I go in there again, Mesh, add new subdivision, it's smoothing the whole thing. And we are able to get more and more detail in here to carve in some of this information we need, right? But like I need all of this detail over here, I don't need it here, right? Like this is being wasted. And I think it's up and down, no. Page up, page down. So right now I am at like 98,000. I'm almost at 100,000 polygons just to have this box, right? So that's not necessarily very economical, right? So I'm going to create a new file here, new scene, don't save. I'm going to choose a sphere. So with this sphere, I want to show you that I'm going to try to make sort of a rough model of an entire character. Okay, just kind of starting roughing it out. I'll be honest, this doesn't always work the best in the world for me, particularly with a mouse. But this is to show you that there are ways we can get detail in areas without having to smooth the entire thing. There are still times when smoothing the entire thing is the best option. So first things first, I'm going to make sure, I'm going to go to my grab tool here, right? And I'm going to make sure that mirror is set to X. So Maya has this option too, where you can, like, if I move something over here, it's going to move it on both sides, right? So I can make this bigger and start moving stuff around like this, right? And you see whatever I do to one side, it's going to do to the other side. Now the problem with this is if I needed to drag out an arm from this model, right? If I grab here, start pulling, right? Grab from here and start pulling. Once I get out here to the edge of this, like really I've stretched this to where now I just have 4 or 5 faces there, right? And that's not enough information if I needed to start pulling fingers out of there, right? So there's a couple of new tools in Maya that allow for like automatic tessellation. So in any of these tools, you can turn this on. Interestingly though, you have to turn it on all of the tools. Like if you pick a new tool, if I go from the grab tool to the sculpt tool, I have to turn it on there too. So I'm going to choose tessellation right here, and I'm going to click that button. And you'll watch what I do is if I grab here, first it tells me, hey, are you sure you want to tessellate this mesh? If I say okay, it's going to triangulate the whole thing. Okay? That's okay, we don't really care about the topology in this. So then if I start moving this, you'll see as I stretch it out, it's adding more faces to it, right? Which is interesting. Like, it's really only adding mesh where it needs it. And if I wanted to start adding branches to this, I could pretty quickly start making a tree. Right? Oh, that's too big. So it's really messy, but you get the idea. Like, it's just adding mesh to where I want it to. Yes?
I know in some cases that you need to make like the triangle there, but what's kind of the rule of thumb? Because I've always heard if you have triangles in your model, you mess up something.
Yeah. It's not absolutely true. There are times when triangles are good. But you remember when I said we're form, flow, and function? Triangles is about the flow. And right now, we're ignoring flow entirely. Like, what we're going to focus on is just form, okay? So even though I just kind of shown you these triangles to show you that it's adding more as it comes along, this is not going to be the topology we use when we're done with this, right? I'm just going to quad draw over it. Right now, all I'm really worried about is what does this mesh look like, right? And so this is kind of neat because I can continually get more and more detail out of this just wherever I need it, right? Like, remember that this started as a sphere. Right? Now, if this ever starts to get a little too jagged for you, we can still do mesh, add new subdivision, right? And it sort of smooths the whole thing, right? And then I can go back to pulling out some more shapes out of this, right? So again, I'm just showing you this. This is not like this is necessarily a great model. It's not. But it is dynamically adding more mesh where I need it, right? And so I can really start to get some pretty crazy stuff just out of a sphere, right? And once we get back to Maya, then we can actually worry about the topology. Now this is still not anything that great, but I just kind of wanted to show you how much I could distort a single sphere. And you'll notice that It's just adding an extra mesh only where it needs it. So the mesh is kind of evenly distributed, right? Really the problem with what I've done here though is I'm getting a lot of this stuff where the mesh is blowing through. And honestly, the grab tool doesn't really work the best for this. So I go to a new scene. One that works pretty well though is the both the foamy tool and the bulge tool. So what I'm going to do, you'll notice in here that there is a character. There's a human body mesh in here, right? So let's start with that. Again, I have tessellation turned on, so I can, if I really wanted to, go in here and start grabbing stuff and pulling it out, right? So let's say I wanted to give this guy some horns, right? He's an evil minion of some sort, right? And so I can just start sort of pulling those out little bits at a time. Yes?
How are you like doing that like grid-wise on the character? How do you have that grid set up?
Oh, where you can see it on there?
Yeah, so I can pull it easier, like grab it easier.
So just hit W, and you should be able to see the wireframe. But if you're not actually getting more mesh as you pull out on it, you need to turn tessellation on, which is over here in your menu. There's this tessellation or tessellate button. And now you should be able to, like, as we pull this here, we're going to start seeing more mesh that dynamically like gets created, right? Now, I have a tendency to use the grab tool a little bit, but again, it's not the best in the world. I sort of use it as a combination with the smooth. We can also use this bulge and foamy, and that will allow us to sort of add stuff. But again, if I want to use the tessellation on this, I have to turn it on those tools as well. So for bulge, I can start sort of drawing here, and you see it kind of pulls it in, like it bulges it toward me, right? And so I can kind of do that and then hold down Shift to sort of smooth it out a little bit, right? And so I have a tendency to do that just a little bit more. And then let's pull them up there. And then I'm just going to polish all those down just a little bit. Oh. You can also turn the amount of strength down over here, and so for bulge, I'll maybe put that down to something like 3, and that way my bulge is getting a little bit better there. And then I'm just kind of going back and forth between bulge and smooth to get what I want out of this, right? And again, you can always go in here at any point and grab your grab tool, make it much bigger, and kind of warp this a little bit more. So let's say this is what we are going for. I know it's not great. Right, let me add a little bit more. Back to my bulge tool here. I'm going to kind of soften these up just a little bit more, get them a little bit pointier on the ends here. There we go. That's looking better. And then bulge, I'll make this a little smaller around there so I can kind of fill that anatomy in there. And of course we can always be adding other stuff to this too. We can add a little bit more information above the brows here. Set that down to like 1, just to get a little bit of a harder brow. That to fill a little of that. Maybe get a little bit of a harder jawline, and so all of this is like, I think this is really nice for stuff like the ears. Because right now these ears are really like not making a lot of sense. So I can sort of grab that, pull those up, start to sculpt these ears. And you'll actually see that as I start getting detail in here, it's going to add the detail where I want it. And that includes if I go to my sculpt tool and turn tessellate on there, I can make my sculpt tool smaller, hold down control, and start, whoa, yeah, that's what I wanted to do. I think so. Take that down to 2. It's still a little high. 0.5. There we go. So now I'm able to start carving into the ear, right, to get the detail I need in there. And it's going to add detail where I need it and take it away from where I don't, right? Or not take it away, but you know what I'm saying. Build that back up, smooth it a little. So, like everything, sculpting takes a lot of time. I'm not putting that time into it right now. But I just wanted to show you that these exist. A question that I was getting earlier is what to do about the inside of the mouth. I usually don't sculpt that. I usually, after I've made my my sculpt and then I retopologize it, like the inside of the mouth doesn't need that much detail. I usually just create it from there, right? So this is the knife. I can add tessellate on it. And so you can get sort of that mouth opening. Turn that down again. 1. Right. We can get kind of that mouth opening there if we want to. And one of the ways to kind of do this is just kind of model it with the mouth a little bit open. But this is actually a nice tool for this because, again, now I can go in here. Oh, yeah, that's perfect. Go in here and put in very subtle detail to keep some of this information making sense. And you'll notice it's only really adding detail where I want it to. Okay, so let's say this is your final model. I know it's not, but let's say it is. And you're wanting to take this into Maya and get something that you can actually animate out of it, right? Sorry, let's get him a nostril there. So let's go ahead and take this out of here. It's actually pretty easy to send this to Maya. You just go File, and then Send to Maya. And I'm just going to send this selected as a new scene. Hit sorry, cancel. File, Send to Maya. I have to select it first if I'm going to do it that way, I guess. I'm going to go to Objects, select Human Body 1, right? File, Send to Maya, Send selected as new scene. I'll say don't save because that's in Maya. And it just pops up. It's there, right? Now, here's the thing. It's a little dense. If we've subdivided this thing a lot, it would be really dense. But I don't need all of this. Like this is just not usable mesh, right? Like it's all triangulated. The only real way we can get usable mesh out of this is to recreate the topology on top of it. So I've kind of shown you this already, right? Select the model, and then I can go into this little magnet right here, and that will make the object live. Right? And then from my modeling toolkit, I can use Quad Draw to start drawing new topology on this, right? And this goes really quickly. One of the things I would encourage you to do is just to have this as a handy reference, type in quad draw keyboard shortcuts, because this is, or hotkeys works as well. This is the list of like shortcut keys that you can use while using quad draw. And it's all weird combinations of click, middle shift, or shift, middle click, control, whatever. Like, there's a whole bunch of different stuff in here, but I'll show you some of them. The more you do of this, the more you'll become familiar with it, right? So, first things first, I want to turn my symmetry on as well. So I'll set this to Object X, and that means whatever I do to one side does to the other side, right? So, if I wanted to start my eyebrows, I could do something like this, right? I've got those 4 quads. If I hold down Shift, it lets me make a new quad. Now, if I start getting close to the center, you'll see they snap, and that's what I want. I want those to kind of snap at the center. And there we go, right? So I could make sort of my eyebrow mask around through here. Very low res, and then hold Control and start inserting edges. I probably don't actually want that triangle there, so I'll fix that here in a minute. And you'll see that every time I insert a new edge, it's snapping to the model, right? I can then, like, I can extrude some of this or pull some of this stuff out, because it's very easy to go in here and hold down Control and create an entirely new edge loop around here, right? Now again, that's why I didn't really want that to happen there. So if I need to delete it, Control Shift will get rid of a key. So now I can do something like that, and then I can rework how I want my quads to work here. Now, this is like really why I like the quad draw tool, is because like figuring out this topology is a pain in the butt otherwise, right? So I'm going to delete that. I want to make a new quad there, and then I'm going to kind of route this around here where I get something like this. So now I can get that like that, and I could probably cut that and do that and that, right? So figuring out your topology now is super simple. It's not super simple, but it's way easier than when you were also trying to get the form at the same time. Does that make sense? All right. Another thing we can do in quad draw is we can extrude edges. So if I hold down Tab, what happened there? Quad draw, sorry. If I hold down Tab, I can just drag that down to there, and I can cut that. I can hold Tab again, drag that over there, merge us together. Right? And so I can start getting these, getting this topology really pretty quickly, right? Okay. Feel like I lost a lot of you there, so that's cool. We're going to move on to recap. So if you want to do your sculpting, if you want to get your models that way, that's cool. It doesn't have to just be organic modeling. Some of you maybe don't need that. Hopefully, you've all sort of came up with a style that is achievable, and that's one of the reasons we focus so much on style at the beginning. But some of you may just need photorealistic models of actual things, right? I want to show you this next thing. It is misleadingly helpful. It's going to seem like, oh wow, I never have to model anything again. I'll just take pictures of everything. That's not necessarily true, but it does work for some stuff. It's called photogrammetry. Any of you done any of that in modeling for entertainment? No? All right. So photogrammetry is basically the process of taking tons and tons of pictures of things, right? and then letting software convert that into a model. It works best with models that are usually not glossy or transparent or translucent, so you can't have a lot of glass on there. So concrete works really well, fabric works really well. Skin works okay if you've sort of dabbed all of the oils off of your skin, like take some paper towels and rub your face until it seems a little more dry. And so really, with this one, I just took tons of pictures around this statue. I'm kind of currently I'm intrigued by St. Francis, and so I was on a St. Francis kick on this. So I just took a bunch of pictures of my mother-in-law's St. Francis statue. And you'll see that I got like from all the way around it, sort of high and low, just so I could get every corner of that, right? The result of that is this. So at first it looks like it modeled me a blotch of grass, right? Until we zoom in there a little closer, you start saying, oh, there's St. Francis, right? And I'm going to get in orbit mode here, and you'll see that it actually did a really good job at modeling St. Francis. So this process of getting this model took me less than 30 minutes, and I have a photorealistic model of St. Francis, okay? This took some planning, though, because I needed an object that was going to work well. He doesn't have any gaps anywhere. It's not like he has like his arms doing like weird gestures, and you have to get all the way around his arm as well, right? He's all kind of one contiguous piece. And there's lots of instances where things don't work well. Now, all that grass and everything, that's something I can delete. That's not a big deal. Something else that I did on this one that was probably a bad decision is I took these pictures sort of midday, probably more like 3 o'clock, something like that. And so he's got a lot of shadow on him, right? Which means if I want to use these texture maps, now his shadow is baked into that. So you're probably going to be best if you can do this in an even lighting scenario. If you're doing it outside, sort of an overcast day is good. If you're doing it inside, just try to get like some evenly balanced lighting. You'll notice on the floors how we have shadows going around here. That means you're going to get that shadow information baked in, and you don't really want that. This does work with characters, not always though. See, this is one I did of my dad, assuming it ever opens. Clicked on that, right? Let's try Matt instead. Don't save. There we go. I hit cancel instead of save. So Matt Drury, the guy we were talking about earlier, who's going to come from Rooster Teeth. This was when he was in one of my modeling classes. And it did an okay job at getting just a base mesh of him. His eyes are a little messed up, and there's no around the back of his head. But this is a rough form. To give you another idea of this, this is one I did of my own head. So you see this is the capture I got, and then I retopologized that to get a relatively good edge flow so I could reduce that, and then I baked the textures onto that mesh. Okay. Yeah, my wife hates this. You'll actually know, I will point out my mistakes here, which I feel like above the brows right here is just way too dense, like that's too dense. And I think there's some areas here where I'm stretching a little bit much. So there's areas for improvement on this, and I see how to fix those already. So now, again, not all of them are going to work. I'm going to try to see if I can get that one of my dad to open, because I think it's one that kind of messed up in a way that shows you. Oh no, this one isn't bad. So, yeah, you can't really tell it so much from this one. So that one turned out all right. Kind of squashed his face in a little bit more than it really is. And you can see his cigarettes in his pocket there. So let's do that. I'm trying to find one that really messed up. Breeze turned out really good, actually. I think some of these full, never mind. I guess I don't have good versions of the ones that messed up in here. Know that they do. I have plenty examples of that. I just don't have any of them with me because I didn't save those. Anyway, you can pull these down and you have the full meshes in here. So, for example, here's another one. I actually uploaded this one earlier today. You'll see that it's in the process of working here. It's waiting in a queue. So that means that what's happening is when you upload them, it uploads them to a server and then it uses like a cloud-based system to convert these. There's ways you can do it, I think, locally as well. It's just a little slower. But what you can get out of that is an OBJ file. So I'm just going to go File, New Scene, Don't Save, and I'm going to import in the OBJ file from this. So let's go File, Import, OBJ Import. Apparently still thinking. Go ahead and close some of this stuff while we're doing that. There it is. Let's go ahead and rotate this. So this one's interesting because I captured this one walking around a garden store in Johnson City. And this is how it's coming in to Maya. Right? This is like very little work on, like I've done nothing other than upload the pictures, and this is the result I'm getting. Now you'll see some mistakes I made, which is I didn't get a lot of good pictures from below, or I didn't get quite enough from above either. I guess I got enough for above, but I'm getting this weird gap from below. So that means whatever it is we need to do under here, we would have to kind of fill that in and fix the mesh under there. And you get an idea of too what this mesh looks like, right? But once we get this into Maya, it's very easy to now just go in here, faces, start deleting the faces I don't need. Go a little slow here. Doesn't it? So this is it trying, it doesn't know the difference between the background and the foreground or any of that stuff. So you just go in here and you delete the parts you don't want, right? Actually, the recap has some tools for that as well. I think that's everything. And so now I can just go back in here with my quad draw tool again and start drawing on it. Now this character isn't completely symmetrical, so I would go ahead and turn off Object X, right, and start getting the parts that wait, make this surface live first. Quad draw and just start making the parts of the mesh. I need, right? Now many of you are going to have questions about topology. There is not an easy answer to any of that. What I would do is say learn from the people who have done this before. If you go to any Google page, whatever, if you go to Google and we just search model topology, you're going to get lots of information about this, lots of opinions about this, and you're going to be able to see at least what other people have done to start coming up with some solutions on what topology is going to work best for the deformation of your object. Recognize though, if your model isn't moving, it doesn't always matter that much. It just has to look good, right? So again, that's in that function part of this. Is it even going to move at all, right? And if the answer is no, then how you decide to do your topology may be completely different. Right. Once we get this model done though, once I get this done with good topology, I can bake those textures onto my good topology. Right? It's not going to be easy and it's probably not going to be perfect, but it will give me something to start. Okay, any questions on this? So the problem with this is the photogrammetry software is just analyzing colors of pixels, right? And so anything that's reflective, it doesn't know if that's a reflection of something, if that's a white dot on it, if it's a hole. It only knows once it calculates it based off other objects. I think it would work great on a car if you were willing to paint that entire car a matte gray color, including the windows. Yeah, so I mean, you could do something like that. You could use like models of cars and try to do some photogrammetry on that. It might give you some starting points. What I will say is one of the issues I've seen people run into on this is sort of falling down the rabbit hole of trying to make photogrammetry work for something it just isn't going to work very well on. So glossy items that have a lot of transparency, it's going to be hard to make that work. So I actually did this last time we did this class with a rubber gummy bear model. Megan like laughing at me. Yeah, I worked on that for like 3 weeks. I could have modeled it in 15 minutes. Instead, I worked on it for 3 weeks to try to show everybody the process. The result that I came up with that worked pretty well is going to Walmart and buying there's fleck paint, like a paint that has little flecks of other colors in them. It's like a textured paint. And painting the entire thing with that and letting it dry and then doing the photogrammetry on it on top of a mildly textured surface, like maybe not mildly, like a newspaper worked really well because it has all these points it can track on a newspaper.
So like granite or something like that, so that you can just tell the difference.
Yeah, but again, you're going to want to watch out for anything that has reflection on it or highlights on it. It's Oh, okay, yeah. Is anybody else taking the attendance sheet? Making around with it? Okay. Other questions, comments about this? So this is this is interesting that I mention it right now. You know, something this would work really well on is if you happen to find a rusty fire hydrant or something like that. Because I've been walking around seeing fire hydrants everywhere, and I'm like, No, I don't actually. I tried it on a glossy fire hydrant once though, and it did not work at all. So that is something to kind of keep in mind there. So, okay. Any questions on any of this? You'd be surprised on what it works on. Last semester, we had a group who tried it with deer heads. Like they had like mounted deer heads. And it came out really good. Like it worked really well on those. They were a little sort of behind the schedule, so they got great models out of it. They just never really got them animated very well. Statues, that's one of the reasons I kind of made the talking statue option, is because it's really easy to find statues that you could use for this. Keep in mind some statues do have copyright information attached to them. So that is another issue. So. All right, cool. If you have any other questions about this, I'd be more than happy to help you. Otherwise, the rest of the class, I'm just going to turn over to you for work time. I'll go ahead and upload this video in case there was something in there that you missed or wanted to use. Yes? Absolutely, yep. Let me go ahead and save this and upload it, and then I'll kind of walk around. So.